Well, it looks like after a relatively brief court battle, President Trump is going to get his wall. You folks may remember that after Trump was pretty much unable to get any sort of wall funding through Congress, he decided to, pick up his toys and go home and declare a national emergency. And by declaring a national emergency, the President of the United States can do just about anything they want as far as law is written, which really was a dumb idea on Congress's part when they passed the National Emergencies Act. They essentially gave any president unlimited power. And Trump has decided to take advantage of that and build his wall. Now, he got sued very quickly, which was, of course, to be expected, saying that by, folks that made the case that Trump can't build his wall without congressional approval, considering that Article 1, Section 8 is pretty clear. Actually, I shouldn't say even Article 1, Section 8, probably even in Article 2, it should be clear that the president doesn't make laws, the president enforces laws. And so embarking on some great construction project you would think would have to be something that would have to be ordered by Congress. But again, the way that the National Emergencies Act is written, Trump is not breaking any laws from what I can tell. If someone really wanted to make the case against Trump doing this, they would try and sue, in my mind, to have the National Emergencies Act ruled unconstitutional, because it very well may be. The National Emergencies Act essentially says that, hey, Congress makes the laws, I guess except for when the president wants to make his own laws. Now, the folks who sued President Trump actually, apparently, according to the Supreme Court, did not lose on the merits of their case. They lost because, according to, the majority opinion, these folks did not have standing to sue the government. Which is interesting when you take note that the people who are suing the government over this are folks who live along the border of the U.S., of the U.S.-Mexico border, and would essentially have their homes, taken away if this wall was built, because the wall isn't. They never built border walls actually on the border. They build them back a bit. So these people are close enough to the border to where they would be caught on the wrong side of the wall. So you would think that if they're suing over the wall that they would have very clear standing. However, apparently their case was not, that the wall was bad. They weren't actually suing over the wall itself. They were suing over the process in which the president is implementing the construction of his wall. They're suing on behalf of Congress, essentially, and, saying that the president is violating, Congress's constitutional right to make the laws, and that he's usurping their power. And the court ruled essentially that, hey, if somebody's going to sue on behalf of Congress, it has to be, the U.S. Congress. And so this case was thrown out because these folks did not have standing, which I'm not enough of a legal expert, I think, to really comment on whether or not this kind of technicality is really that valid, or whether they're kind of stretching things a bit just to get the president what he wants. Of course, it is the conservatives on the court who did essentially throw this case out, which I would have to imagine that most of them are in favor of a border wall, whether or not, the legal merits of this case held up. So obviously they're biased in favor of the president, so I'm not sure how much that may have swayed them, or how much it really is a cut and dry case that these folks didn't have standing. But either way, this is a huge victory for the president, because now the president can build his wall essentially with impunity. I guess the one downside is that the president is not totally in the clear, because this ruling did not expand executive power. It did not rule that the president is not in violation of the law. What it ruled was that these folks can't sue, so they can't even consider the question of whether or not the president is in violation of the law, meaning that somebody else who does have standing could sue. Namely, I would suppose congressional Democrats could sue. So I'm not sure if there are any plans to do that as of right now, or if they're just going to let the president go and they're going to, just talk more about their impeachment stuff. But needless to say, if the president is able to finally start building his wall and have a good bit of it completed before the 2020 election, that would certainly help him, sail through for another 4 years, because folks will feel vindicated after voting for Trump because he actually got done, what he said he would, his chief promise. The big promise that so many Republicans have made over the years that nobody's actually followed through on. The president himself obviously is very happy and feels certainly vindicated in this case, and it will be interesting to see now how he uses this opportunity that's been handed to him. I think that if Trump was able to build a significant portion of the wall and really make a dent in that promise, that would help mitigate any of the downside risk from a potential recession that will occur before the 2020 election. I think the president certainly could get by one, pointing at his wall and saying, hey, I built the wall, promises made, promises kept, and then he could also blame the Fed if he wanted to, which is a very complicated issue. The president's troubles with the Fed. The president is both correct and incorrect, and I won't get into that here. But overall, I'd say that his chances of re-election are looking pretty rosy at this point. So if you gained anything of value out of this video, I'd appreciate you clicking that like button and subscribing. And if you do subscribe, please do click the bell because I do upload every day, and I'd hate to have you miss one. So I'll see you folks back here tomorrow.